welcome to Q Primary Presents Intentional Tech. I am your host, Kayla Harlow, a former first grade teacher, ed tech advocate, yet limited screen time parent. This week's episode, Systems for Success, is the start of a back to school mini series where we will focus on tips and tricks to set your classroom up for a successful year with technology integration in the primary grades. We are going to stray away from our conversational format for a few episodes, but I hope that you are able to gain a little piece of content, tips, or tricks from these episodes in order to use them in your classroom the next day. All resources will be available at littledigitalallearners.com/podcast. All right, let's get started with Systems for Success. In today's episode, we will discuss myth number 1 surrounding technology integration, and that is that the use of technology makes teachers' jobs harder. Then we will delve into some definitions. We are going to clarify the difference between systems, procedures, and routines. The terms are often used interchangeably, but have a little bit different meaning. Then we will jump into the top 3 systems that I recommend focusing on in the back to school season and some tips and tricks to get you started. So I want to hear it. What is one thing that you are proud of so far this year? You can respond in the comments depending on what platform you're watching, or you can email me and tell me at Kayla@littledigitalallearners.com. I love to keep the conversation going, and this could be something academic at school, or it could be in your personal life. I am a huge proponent of focusing on the small victories each day to keep us moving forward. All right, so first myth that we're going to jump into is the use of technology makes our jobs harder. Now, it can, and it can be overwhelming. But if you're doing it correctly, the use of technology in the classroom or in education provides efficiency. And that efficiency that technology provides does just the opposite. So in order to make sure that we're getting the efficiency versus the overwhelm, simple systems are the way to be successful. So changing that mindset in order to really change how we implement technology is the first step. Why do systems matter? So simple systems are at the top of the funnel for any successful system. So you'll see this image of quicksand to the right. And if you don't have simple systems set in place when you try to implement anything new, you're going to most likely hit roadblock after roadblock, feeling like your feet are stuck in the sand. So when going about implementing any new technology, or not new technology to you, but new to your classroom or those students in your classroom this year, the place to start is with simple systems. When you have simple systems consistently implemented, they become strong systems. Strong systems increase automaticity for both you and your students, which in turn increases efficiency across the whole classroom. Now let's look at a system versus a routine. So like I said, these words are often used interchangeably, but they have a little bit different meaning. So today we're going to focus on systems. In a following episode, we're going to focus more on routines. Systems are a set of principles or routines themselves according to which something is done. Routines are a set of actions that are consistently taken to uphold that very system. So systems are made up of multiple routines. The stronger the system, the more effective and efficient the routine. So my top 3 systems that we're going to jump into. I will say this is just the tip of the iceberg for each system. I'm going to throw out a few pointers, either from my experience or my research or from my peers. And hopefully this will spark ideas for you. If there's one thing you can take away and use in your classroom tomorrow, I would consider it a success. All right, so the top 3 systems in order of priority are organization, classroom management, and teacher productivity. So system number 1, organization is the heart of any successful system, whether it is technology-based or classroom management-based, home-based, anything. If you want a successful system, it has to be well organized. So we're going to talk about the logistics of organization. So things to consider when implementing your organization systems at the beginning of the school year are: what resources do I have? What resources do I need? How am I going to charge devices? How am I going to distribute devices? And where am I going to store materials such as headphones? So you'll see on the left-hand side, I have an example of headphone storage. This is pulled off Pinterest. There's many ideas out there, but things to think about is: 1, you want every student to have their own headphones. I want to make a shout out to Think Right. I will link them in the podcast resources. Their headphones are affordable, so durable, and the best ones I've tried so far. So whether or not your students can afford them or can't afford them, reaching out to stakeholders, whether it's your school, site principal, or the community. There's headphones at Dollar Tree. You want students to have individual headphones. Lice, ew, gross. And for focus, it can be distracting if they're on different programs and they don't have headphones. Then thematic bins and unit bins. I often integrated technology using QR codes or certain activities that would be hard copy because they need that hands-on manipulative experience, but there would be a technology component tied in. So having all of that organized in one place, whether it was a unit bin for our literacy or a thematic bin for our thematic centers throughout the year or seasonal centers, I kept them all in one place. Table bins. I will talk a little bit more about table bins when we talk about routines in a following episode. But table bins provide the opportunity for you to keep devices on the desks or the tables at all times. There's a lot of reason behind this, but it removes the novelty of it being device time, computer time, technology time. And it kind of sends the message that they are more of a tool to students, like a pencil in their pencil box. They do not have open access to using their devices just because they're on the table. And we'll, again, talk about that when we get more into routines. But that is one thing to keep in mind, as well as charging. If your district or your site provides a charging system or device, awesome. If not, I used right here, there's painter's tape, and that is a charging cart. But when I first started, I was all on my own. So I used painter's tape and cords to organize like this, and then I would keep them in a dish rack. So in my cabinet, so the dish rack would hold each device, and then I would align the colors to match the device in order for charging. Budget-friendly storage ideas. So districts are doing a lot more and are a lot more on board post-pandemic in regards to supporting our technology needs in order to help us be successful in the classroom. But I know that we still, as educators, spend money out of your own pocket. So some things, like I said, painter's tape to color code and match charging cords to devices or where a device needs to be placed when it's put away. a table bin. So the previous one was a more expensive table bin. Here is a table bin, and they just used dowels to separate each thing, and then they numbered them accordingly. Again, you can color code it too. I love color coding. Then a closet shoe rack to organize headphones. Brilliant. And then this last one I haven't used, but if I was still in the classroom, I definitely would. And it is a hack for organizing all remotes or gadgets that you have in regards to technology, teacher technology in the classroom. So again, when I go into routines, I'm going to talk a lot about the wireless doorbell. If you haven't heard about the wonders of the wireless doorbell, you need to check it out. But I will link that again in the podcast resources so that you can kind of get an idea of how I use it, what it's used for. But for this organization system itself here, they just have a half binder flipped over and then either Velcro or magnets on each side of the remote and then the binder. And so it's kind of a home base for all teacher technology resources. Jumping into system number 2, classroom management. Everyone has their own unique style, their own unique beliefs around classroom management. The key is to be consistent across the board, whether it's something incorporating technology in your classroom or not. Not to change your system, your classroom management system or style, just because you're using technology. Keep it consistent no matter what you're doing in the classroom. So this is something I fell into often when I first started using technology in the classroom. So this is a little bit of do this, not that. The way in which we implement technology matters. So using technology as a reward or as a regular quiet choice is not the best way to go about it, because that sends the message to children that it is a toy, rather than shifting their mindset to that technology is equivalent to a pencil in their pencil box. Plan technology into your day throughout the day. You cannot expect students to use technology as a tool if you treat it as a toy. So like I said, this is something I fell into all the time, using it to incentivize things throughout the day. And I saw the repercussions of how students understood technology should be used. And I had to work my way back a little bit. So that's one big pointer that I would suggest. All right, classroom management. The biggest concern now that we're one-to-one in primary classrooms, most places post-pandemic, is how do I maintain control when I have all of these 5 and 6-year-olds with their own devices? Now, I'm going to give you some pointers, but I also am going to say we're going to scaffold off of the control, leaving more room for creation. A lot of the concerns or the negative mindset around technology in the classroom is because it is consumption focused. Students are over consuming. But if we implement best practices to really prioritize creation over consumption, that won't be an issue. So number 1 is be consistent. I had mentioned this prior. Be consistent with your classroom management systems across everything, whether it's with technology or not. Number 2, don't use it as a reward. That sets the mindset shift into technology as a tool. A toy versus a tool. Give clear expectations prior to use. This is so important at the very beginning of the year when establishing your systems. But the beauty of systems, simple systems equals strong systems, which equals automaticity, is that students will begin to automatically know what is expected prior to use, providing room for you and your students to delve deeper into content. Then let student creation replace test when possible. So depending on where you teach, there's always going to be test required, right? But when you have the power to do so and the technology resources to do so, provide room for students to explore their creativity and how they demonstrate their understanding of a concept or their learning. This goes back into the UDL principles and really making sure that students have equal opportunity to represent what they know, depending on how they learn, essentially. And then number 5, you'll be amazed. Like I said, we're going to scaffold back the control and kind of give students the reins, more or less, after these simple systems are established. And you will see more growth than you can imagine. 2 pointers for classroom management. First, tech captain. I always assigned a table tech captain. This was a student that had role model behavior. I rotated it throughout the week, the month, and they were responsible for getting all technology table bins out during the day and putting them on the table. They were responsible for putting them back and charging them at the end of the day. If there were any technology issues, they would come to me or whatever adult was in the room to solve it. This prevented any liability of breaking devices and things like that through chaos. They had a point person at each table that was in charge of that. It also created a positive community in which students were aspiring to be that role, and modeling best practices and how we use technology in the classroom. And it also eliminated the chaos of students coming to me for tech problem solving. These tech captains were ones that could go around and help their peers solve some of the troubleshooting. So really, this was a huge reason for success in my classroom, was having this system and expectation of tech captains. On the other end, this could be more positively framed, but a tech timeout. A tech timeout is not the concept that all technology is removed from that student. It is the concept that all extracurricular or incentive, why do I keep trying to use that word? Extracurricular technology was removed from that student. Technology is integrated throughout as a pencil throughout the school day. So that student wasn't going to get out of their work for being in a tech timeout. That student still had to do the bare minimum of what was required in regards to their technology, but they didn't get to do it anymore. A student would be placed in tech timeout for behavior reasons, for not using technology appropriately, for multiple different reasons that you can anticipate. And typically that tech timeout, depending on the age level, would not be a whole day. It would be for this period or until lunch. It had to be really extreme to be for a whole day, because there's so much that was done with technology throughout the day that I didn't want to prevent access to it. All right, device management. Efficiency is key when incorporating iPads into the classroom. It is important that the housekeeping of devices is simple and orderly, especially for teachers new to technology. So I'm going to point out 2 tips for device management. One is backgrounds. So changing the backgrounds to numbers or names, and that's the background of the device itself. So if I did numerical students based on alphabet. So if I was number 1 in the classroom, I would have device number 1. I would have headphones number 1. My device would have a number 1 in the background. And this made it so that I was solely responsible for that device. If you're using an LMS like Jamf, you can see, student number 1. I know who student number 1 is. I see their screen. They're not doing what they're supposed to. Redirect. There's multiple reasons, but that's my number 1 tip, is setting the backgrounds of student devices to assign them to each of the students. And then this is the biggest one, is folders. Hold on. We don't want to start that yet. Okay. So little learners can get easily distracted. on purpose or on accident. Either way, using folders to set up home screens to help minimize this is essential. Folders allow teachers to keep students on track while simultaneously providing choice. So they act as a choice board in themselves. This right here on this iPad is very visually overstimulating. I don't know where to start. I don't know what's available. I don't know, what I want to do first. I will also say that these are not all apps that I recommend. This is my son's iPad. But going from this to this sets your students up for success. So I would chunk all related apps into their folder. And then the teacher folder, the teacher folder would have all apps that I need to function the devices, but that students did not need to access, and they knew that that was off limits. So with this setup, not only is it visually appealing and it provides the opportunity for students to be able to focus, I also can give directions like early finishers. You have free choice in the math folder. So after they finish their hands-on activity, they can go and reinforce those skills with their choice of activity that I have pre-approved and put into the math folder. Then you'll see down at the bottom, I have docked. This is what we call our dock, the most essential apps that we use every day. So there's no searching for them. So this is where we're talking about having a system for success is going to increase that automaticity. Students take out their device. They're not searching for where to go. They know where to find this app or this program. They know what to do. They know what's expected of them when they're done. It's just awesome. And then the last system I'm going to jump into shortly is teacher productivity. When teachers are able to work more efficiently, that opens up their working brain power to invest it into lesson planning or building more authentic relationships with their students. So my top 4 productivity tools are Canva, Seesaw, Google Drive, and Google Chrome extensions. Canva has changed the game. I use Canva for almost everything. I can have templates that I duplicate and I just change the little bits and pieces of it. Rather than sending parents PowerPoints or Google Slides, I send them my Canva slides as a website so that they're able to interact with it. The visuals and the graphics available to support my students, specifically emergent readers and ELs, is invaluable. Canva, they have really stepped up their game for educators. Then if you have followed me for some time, you'll know that I am a huge advocate for Seesaw. I've been using it every day in the first grade classroom since 2016. And the system of using Seesaw was a verb in my classroom. So when they finished something, rather than turning it into the inbox, they would seesaw it. And that's how they would turn it in for accountability and feedback. So I can go on forever about Seesaw, but not today. Then Google Drive. Google Drive provides the opportunity for collaboration amongst colleagues, parents, students. And then it also gives you the opportunity to have your resources available to you any place rather than just having them saved on your desktop at home. You can access them from anywhere. And then finally, Chrome extensions. The one thing I will say about Chrome extensions is that they are designed to make your job easier, whatever you're trying to do, but do not overcommit to Chrome extensions. I recommend having no more than 5 that you use regularly. If you go bigger than that or have more than that, then most likely you're not going to use any of them really effectively at all because there's that overwhelm. So There's a ton of cool ones out there. I'm not going to recommend any specific ones today, but just keep in mind, try and max yourself out at 5 or so that you are able to get the most out of them. All right, so I am going to go ahead and play the short video about how I organize my Google folders to help with a system for success.
All right, so right here you can see all of my folders that I have, and I've color coded them. And then any folder I have within a folder, I also work on color coding. And then the colors mean different things depending where you're at, just for my system. And in order to color code, you would just go down, right click, and click change colors. So for example, if it's going to be something that's in progress, it could be red or yellow. If it's something that you completed, it could be green. Whatever system works well for your brain is the way to go. And then I also use emojis to help me quickly process where I am and be able to find everything. If I'm not able to find something, or I don't know what folder I put it in, because maybe it goes in 2 different folders, I will just search the drive. But this is probably the best way for me to process everything. I keep hard copy saves on my desktop of some things, but I like have a running brain dump doc of everything, just if I need to get it off my mind onto paper, and then I can move forward. It helps with procrastination as well.
All right, so like I had previously mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we are starting a back to school mini series talking about tips and tricks to help you start your school year off well when talking about technology integration. It's going to stray away a little bit from our conversational format for a couple of episodes, but what you can anticipate moving forward is we are going to touch on classroom procedures, small groups, and center rotations, how to differentiate and assess with technology, and dive deep into the intentional tech framework. So let's do the darn thing. Thank you for watching today's show. Like I had said, I hope that there is one tip or trick that you can use in your classroom tomorrow. I would love to keep the conversation going, so feel free to comment below or reach out to me at kayla@littledigitalearners.com, and I look forward to hearing what small victories that you have in your classroom this coming week. And as a special back to school gift for you, go ahead over to littledigitalearners.com/wordwall to receive your free digital word wall to use with your students this back to school season. Also, be sure to head over to q.org to join the new Q-munity, where you can connect with like-minded educators and receive free professional development resources. Please join me at Fall Q 2022 in Stockton, California, October 22nd and 23rd. Register today at fallq.org. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. Resources can be found at littledigitalearners.com/podcast, and be sure to subscribe, like, or follow. And always remember, technology